So let's just do a quick review what we kind of did. We linked up the user's API with this login function that accepts a user's object, a username and password. We're including going to this API endpoint, and we get a response back that includes a token. And once we go into the app.js, we want to set the user, whether their user is logged in or not, at the very top level of our application. So within the app component, we set state a user to null initially. We create a handle login that takes in a user object and assigns that to state. We are utilizing the render property in our route. That render executes a function as opposed to the component property, which just takes in a component. The render property takes in a function that we called render login page, which we declared up here in between the render and the return statement. So render login page takes in some props and returns the login page component with the handle login and the history passed in as props. That gets rendered in our login page. In our login submit, we extract the email and password from our form, and then we send that user object to the user API, and we get whether or not a user is logged in or not. And then once we get the user response back, we call the handle login function that is passed down via props, and we're passing in that user response object, which is up here, which comes up here in the app.js component, passing that user response object. We set that user response object to the user state. All right. Does anybody have any question about that kind of flow? All right.
Well, I did have one. It looked like some of them are the async, but when you're so going on the right on line 33, I'm sorry, on your app.js. So when we're actually passing down as props, even though the original function is an await, right? Or no. There's one part where it's like one thing's an await, the other one's not, and then it seemed like we're skipping certain, like we don't always have to pass a sync into it.
We're not passing async into anything. You're just making sure that this, when this function runs, make sure it runs asynchronously.
Well, I understand this one runs async, but going on the app when we're passing things to the login page, so we're passing in the pass is a render, which is a function, but that function is not render login page. So that's just passing a function of this.handle login, and the handle login is all that's doing is updating the state.
Yep. So there's no asynchronous actions that we need. There's no code. Yeah, there's no code that we need to run asynchronously here.
Okay.
All right. All right. So if you attempt to submit an article in the app in its current state, you'll notice that the API will return a 401. So unauthorized status code. The version of the API included in this repo has protection around the post route, the article's posting route, and you need to include a valid token in the request. So first, let's update the add article function in the articles API. This function accepts a single parameter, an article object, and an additional parameter for this function called token. So in our articles API right here. Let's add an article. Currently, it's not accepting, it's only accepting that article object, but now it needs to accept another argument, which is that token that we passed in, or that we got back from the server when we logged a user in. But now we have to pass that token into an authorization header. So add a new property to the header object in the add article function called authorization. This tells the server, oh, what the hell? This essentially says, hey, if this header is in here, it needs, a token needs to exist in it. So it's like a protected route that only a user, authenticated user, has access to. So like that. So we pass in that token in the add article. We pass, have another authorization header, and we pass the token value as the authorization value. So now if I want to actually submit an article, so new article, title, byline, new, abstract, new. It says post, still unable to post it. So I'm getting this error back, authorization required. So let's go ahead and log in, tom@email.com, 123, 123. So I'm logged in, I have a user. Let's actually get rid of some of that on the login page. Let's get rid of that. I'm gonna have to log back in. Whoop. tom@email.com, 123, 123. Cool, so I'm logged in. There's my user. Now if I wanna add an article, new article, something, I still get an unauthorized, I'm still unable to actually post an article. So that is because, where's my article page? Add an article page does not have access to the user state and that exists in app.js. So how do I pass this state down to the add article page?
Add Redux.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yep, add Redux. Or we can just kind of do exactly what we did it down here with the render login page. We can do a render add article page, which is a function that we have to create, const render add article page. Let's pass in the props. Whoop. And then just return the add article page with that user equals this.state.user. Now if you come over here to the add article page, let's abstract that, let's deconstruct that user by just passing in the user. And now we can console log the user to see if we have access to it now. So if I click here, here's the add article page. Currently it's null. Now if I log in, 123, 123, submit. A user is logged in as shown here in the app.js. Now if I go to the add article page, so I have this little icon that says plus, this is how I add an article. Click there. Here's my user in the add article page. So now I have access to that token, which is that ID. So when I submit an article, I've got this article object, which I pass in, but I also have to pass in another, I have to pass in that token, which I have access via the user.id. If I look at that, just to double check. Uh-oh. So yeah, it's good. So I currently don't have it right now. All right. So just go back just to make sure I do. Refresh, login, tom@email.com, 123, submit. I'm logged in. Click to add a article. There's that token that I need. I access it by grabbing the user ID. So I can pass it in in the add article, in the articles API, and pass in that user ID as that token. So if I refresh and log in again, because every time I refresh, I have to log in because the state gets reset. Submit, come over to add an article, new article, new byline, new abstract. Now, if everything works correctly, I should be able to post a new article. I should see a success. So if I post it in the articles API, come down here, add article, the article object, that token. I have the authorization token. It's going to check in the server, say, hey, does this authorization token exist? Yes, it does. Check it against the database. Okay, that token does exist in the database. It's assigned to that user. Cool, it works. If it do, basic async await, console log that data. If I get an error, it's going to return an object with an error message. Otherwise, it's going to have a success code. So if I click submit, there goes success. Your article was posted. Here's that data. And I can go to home and check it out. Here's my new article right there. Back. Cool, cool. Article 2, byline 2, abstract 2, submit. Success, your article was posted. Scroll down, there's my second article. Does anybody have any questions about that specific portion? Let's clean up the login page. So let's just get rid of all this. Let's get rid of this logout. I don't need this anymore. There we go. So I can get rid of that. Set. That's fine. All right. So we authenticated article submission. Now we have to authenticate. Did we already do this? Add article. Oh yeah, I think we already did this as we needed a user object. Yep, so this is where we rendered an add article page, add the second parameter in the add article API, which we already did. Right here. That's that second argument. So now, as users who aren't logged in are now unable to post articles, we should only have the add article button appear in the app.nav component when a user is logged in. In order to accomplish this, we simply pass app.js, this.state.user into the app.nav component. So let's look in the app.js. So before we were passing in props like the user state via the render method. That's because we were using the route in React Router DOM. But up here, we're just rendering the app.nav normally. So in here, we can just say user equals this.state.user and pass it in as a normal property. Now, if I come over here and look at, whoop, oh God, and look at the app.nav, where'd it go? So this is a class component. If I do, so I've got history there. I'm going to console log this.props to see if I have access to that user. So right here, here's the app.nav. User is initially null, so I can extract that from props as well. So I can say down here, here's that add icon right here. But if I only want to add when a user exists, I can just do some other conditional rendering right here and just say, if user exists, then render that add icon. Now if I come over here, now the add icon is gone. If I go like here, tom@email.com, 123, 123, and submit. Now that add icon is there, click on it. Title 3, or article, byline 3, abstract 3. There we go. I'm able to add an article, article 3, new article. Now if I refresh, I lose my state. But if I ever go to like add article, I can still see that form. So let's actually add article page. So we have user. So if user of not user. So if I refresh it, see now nothing shows up. So that's like a protected route. Now you don't have to do that, but I just wanted to show you how to like conditional rendering. All right. So we were able to do that but now, so that's for the add article page. Now we actually want to link when a user is logged in, render a login button. So where's my login button? So here's my link to log in. So I can say if user exists using a ternary. So if user is logged in, render a logout. So let's look at this. So we have a link to log in and link to log out. Again, you want to display these links when appropriate if a user is logged in. So let's look at what that looks like. So I can click login, tom@email.com, 123, 123. Now I have log out. When I click log out, it takes me to log out, but that route doesn't exist. So it doesn't actually do anything yet. So the last few at this point, now we just have to actually render that render logout. So in our app.nav, we can go to that route, render logout, and render logout. And that render property takes in a function. So const render logout. And that the only thing that actually does is this dot set state. So when a user logs out, I have to reset the user's state to null. So
Could you at that point also throw in the logic to push their history to go back to the home page, no matter where they're at when they hit the logout button, and just kind of goes back to the home page?
Yep, exactly. So here's that render logout, and it returns a redirect component. And that redirect, if we look in right here in React Router DOM, we have a login. If the user's logged in, redirect to dashboard. So we have this redirect function. So we just have to import that from React Router DOM, redirect. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to log in. Oh, tom@email.com, 123, 123. I'm able to submit an article now, or I have access to that page. New article 4, byline 4, abstract 4, submit. I have a submit success. So I renders like right now, I have conditional rendering that makes the form go away once I have submitted a successful article. I can click home, come down here. There's my article 4. If I submit a bad article, so this current form does not have any front end, front end form validation. So if I actually submit it, it still says it was posted. Oh yeah, hold on. If I click that again and just post it, and this one doesn't exist, or if I just say post, it says there's an issue posting with your article. It's just the way I have my app set up. But if I've got to log out. So when I click log out, it says cannot update during existing state. Render method should be pure function. This that's weird. Let's see. Was it supposed to render me to the login page? Oh yeah, so it redirected me directly to the login page. I don't know. Render method should be pure function. I don't know what this warning means, but right now everything is working right now. I'll actually look at see what that warning means afterwards. But right now, the overall functionality of new site is working. So hitting log out, the state users will be nulled out and the page will redirect back to the home page. The redirect component, something that React Router provides, simply is used to redirect from one page to another. Cool. So there we go. I want to see, does anybody have any questions? About new site validation, specifically around the credentials that are being returned, as in the token, as well as if you want to have, if you need to have an authorized user, an authenticated user to do certain requests on your website, how to provide a token. Nope. If not,